Most people picture hell as eternal conscious torment, fire, and demons, where God sends you if you've done something wrong.
This is the bad place.
But where does that image come from? So I'll tell you this right now, it doesn't come from the Bible. Let's talk about it. Hey, I'm Jim. I'm an amateur runner and a real-life pastor, and in this video we're talking about hell. What the hell? Specifically, what does the Bible actually say about hell? Because it's not always the superstitions and scare tactics that we're given as a kid. Too often becoming a Christian is just cosmic fire insurance. You want to escape the bad place, so you'll do whatever it takes to get to the good place, right? Right?
Oh, this is the bad place.
Let's start by talking about the words used for hell. In the Hebrew scriptures, it's Sheol. Anytime you see the word hell in the Hebrew scriptures, it's Sheol. And Sheol does not mean hell like we typically picture it. Sheol is just a word used for this shadowy underworld, kind of like Hades, you could imagine. It's not the bad place for the bad people. It's just where everyone goes after they die. There's no separation of the righteous and the wicked. It's just where you end up, the grave, Sheol. And then Hades, yeah, I mentioned that already. Hades is the Greek word used in the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures. So instead of Sheol, they just used Hades, which means the same thing. This shadowy place where everyone goes when they die. It also pops up in the Christian scriptures as well, because those were written in Greek. So they use the word for Sheol, Hades, hell. But it's not the hell we're used to. 2 Peter gives us the one and only use of the Greek word Tartarus for hell, which comes from a Greek myth, and it's this place for rebellious spirits to go. And then there's Gehenna, which is the word that we hear Jesus using most for hell. And Gehenna was an actual place, not some cosmic realm. We're going to get more into Gehenna in a minute. But it's worth pointing out that these 4 words in the Bible all get translated into the same word hell, and yet somehow we've painted a picture on what hell is, and I think that picture might be wrong. Gehenna refers to the Valley of Hinnom, this ravine outside of Jerusalem. There's some later tradition that says it was actually a garbage pit where the flames would be going forever and the dogs would be fighting over the scraps of food, so there was this gnashing of teeth. But there's no archaeological evidence to support that, just some later tradition. But it's a good thought. But what we do know is this. In 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, this location is the site of child sacrifice to Molech under kings Ahaz and Manasseh. And Jeremiah calls it the Valley of Slaughter and declares judgment upon this specific space. So a word that we use to describe a someday future hell is actually describing a past literal hell, the location of these horrific tragedies and trauma. And then later in the Second Temple period, around 200 CE or so, this is the time between the Hebrew scriptures and the Christian scriptures, because there's actually a bit of a time jump in there. This is when we see some Jewish apocalyptic literature, specifically things like First Enoch, all those books that Christians typically overlook and never really read. And it's in this literature that Gehenna begins to be used symbolically. They're taking all the weight of the actual physical place and they're invoking this image of future divine judgment on the wicked. And that's what Jesus inherits, this apocalyptic literature lingo, which is less a prediction about what's going to happen and more commentary on what's happening now. It's like science fiction using language of the future to talk about the present. And Jesus inherits the word. He's using it with all of that apocalyptic weight and meaning and significance. Jesus isn't inventing some new afterlife theological location. He's using a term rooted in apocalyptic literature that he would have been familiar with. That's all rooted in a location that he would actually have known about. What if Jesus is using this word the same way the prophets before him did, to call out systems that oppress and marginalize? He's not saying this is where you're going to go when you die, but he's saying this is the reality you're putting on earth right now. He's saying the people who are causing these injustices, they are under the scrutiny and judgment and wrath of God. I mean, this is all quite a bit different than the pictures we get in Dante's Inferno or the artwork throughout church history. So much of our theology of hell comes from those misconceptions rather than an actual understanding of what Jesus is saying and what the Bible has been saying all along. So if hell as eternal torment isn't the biblical picture, what are we missing? Gehenna's original horror is about what humans do to each other. Sacrifice children, violence, injustice, and it's the prophetic judgment that falls on those systems, not the individuals who just believe the wrong thing. Judgment is God's opposition to oppression, not a threat used to control behavior or sell this cosmic fire insurance. All this to say, the fear-based hell of your childhood probably has less biblical support than you thought. And what if hell wasn't about later, but it's always been about right now?